Welcome back to the channel. The fierce tiger attacked the policeman's wife twice, but failed. No one expected that the third time it would return, more ferocious and dangerous than ever. When the woman thought there was no way out, Long suddenly appeared, returning after staying with his biological mother. Will the woman escape this time? Let's see. The sky had just begun to brighten. The fog still covered the path. Sinnhat hurriedly left the house. Although the kitchen was still unfinished, the house had run out of food. With no other choice, she went alone into the deep forest to find bamboo shoots, hoping to prepare lunch for the whole family. But she did not expect that the ferocious tiger would not spare her. Danger was near, and this time, it would not let anyone escape. Despite her fear, Sinnhat still tried to stay calm, gently peeling each bamboo shoot. She knew that at home, everyone was still cooking, counting on this bamboo shoot to have a full lunch. She was not allowed to return empty-handed. After harvesting some bamboo shoots, Sinnhat gently moved to the bamboo bush next to her. Everything seemed peaceful, until a cracked sound rang out under her feet. In just a split second, the ground collapsed, pulling her straight into a deep hole. The sudden fall made her panic, dust flying everywhere. She could not have imagined that this hole did not appear randomly. It had been prepared by someone in advance, and she was the target of this trap. Sinnhat looked around in panic. The space was dark and cold. The only sound was the rapid beating of her heart in her chest. She gasped, her palms trembling, trying to get up, but her legs felt numb. What just happened? Where is this? Why is there a deep hole in the middle of the forest? A series of questions ran through her head, but what made her shiver was the feeling. This was not an accident. This trap had been carefully prepared. Someone wanted her to disappear. She bit her lip, forcing herself to calm down. She couldn't panic. She had to find a way to escape from this place before the hidden person came back to check on the prey. Sinnhat tried to grope around the edge of the hole, her hands scratched by the sharp rocks, but she did not stop. She had to get out, had to go back. However, a terrifying sound rang out, tearing apart the silence, a low, familiar roar. She froze. It was none other than the tiger that had attacked her twice before. Heavy footsteps stepped on dry branches, approaching the edge of the hole. Fear swept through her entire body, her heart pounding, her breathing ragged. She looked up, her eyes panicking as she looked at the black figure that suddenly appeared above. No weapons, no way out. Would anyone come to save her this time? Or would this be the end of it all? The footsteps were getting closer and closer, stepping on the dry leaves, making chilling sounds. Sinnhat trembled and pressed herself closer to the edge of the hole, her back pressed tightly against the cold, damp soil. Her breathing became heavy and intermittent. She did not dare to move, did not dare to breathe heavily, only hoping that the darkness would swallow her. Above, the low roar sounded again, now clearly audible even to the panting breaths of the wild beast. Its claws lightly scratched the edge of the hole, waves of dirt falling down on her. Her heart was pounding, her hands clenched tightly on the muddy edge of the hole. There was nowhere left to hide, and it had smelled her. Without a second of hesitation, the tiger roared madly and rushed straight into the pit like a nightmare. Its eyes were red, shining with pure bloodlust, as if it had never tasted human flesh in its entire life. Its sharp claws slashed straight into the place where Sinnhat was hiding, dust flying up, and pieces of rock tore at her flesh. The tiger suddenly rushed forward, pouncing hard. The attack was so unexpected that Sinnhat panicked. Her whole body trembled. Her heart felt like it was about to jump out of her chest. She didn't have time to call for help. Before she could react, she fell to the ground, dizzy and out of control. In extreme panic, her consciousness faded, then went black. Sinnhat fainted. The sun was high in the sky, but Sinnhat still hadn't returned. In the unfinished kitchen, Hang and her mother sat restlessly. They both looked at each other, their hearts filled with a bad feeling. Something's not right, Mother whispered softly, her eyes filled with worry. Hang suddenly remembered that 2 days ago, Sinnhat had been stalked by a tiger in the forest. Both times he had been lucky enough to escape. But this time, why was it taking so long? There was no way to delay any longer. The mother and daughter hurriedly put on their coats and rushed straight into the deep forest, ignoring the scorching sun and lurking dangers. In their hearts, there was only one thing. They had to find Sinnhat before it was too late. At the same time, at the bottom of the cold pit, Sinnhat lay unconscious, breathing weakly. The ferocious tiger had not yet let go. It crouched down, growled menacingly, then scratched her body bit by bit, as if to vent all its pent-up hatred. Blood flowed and soaked the cold ground. Suddenly from afar came a worried call. Sinnhat, Sinnhat. It was the voice of Heng and her mother. The tiger was startled, its ears perked up, and it turned its head to look in the direction of the call. It growled softly, took a few steps back, then gathered its strength and jumped out of the pit, surprisingly strong and fast. Just a few seconds later, it disappeared into the jungle, leaving behind Sinnhat motionless, covered in injuries, in a pool of blood. Finally, Heng and her mother discovered Sinnhat lying in a deep hole, motionless in a pool of dark red blood. Heng screamed in panic, quickly slid down, pushed aside the rocks, and rushed to her side. When she touched Sinnhat, she was shocked. Blood soaked her shirt, her face pale. Without thinking much, Heng immediately picked her up, her eyes filled with panic and tears. "Mom, come home, hurry." The mother and daughter did not say another word, hurriedly ran home, with only one thought in their hearts: to save her at all costs. The afternoon was calm. The sunlight slanted through the leaves, covering the unfinished brickyard in gold. Sinnhat sat on the porch, holding a cup of ginger water, his eyes silently looking into the distance. Her face was pale, a few scratches still imprinted on her neck and arms. Her mother and Heng sat next to her, occasionally looking at her, still not over the shock of the life and death moment that morning. She took a deep breath, smiled faintly, and expressed through action, "I'm better. Let's continue working on the kitchen floor. Mom, if we wait too long, the mortar will dry." Her mother and Heng looked at each other, nodded slightly. They understood. Sinnhat was overcoming the shock with familiar actions. The three of them went out to the yard together, where the wooden planks and bundles of bamboo were still drying in the sun. Mom was stacking the bamboo strips, Heng was preparing to drill holes for the joints, and Sinnhat, though not yet well, was still sitting on the porch, shaving the ends of the bamboo, selecting the wood, and cleaning the surface. Each knock, each light sawing sound echoed in the evening light, like the steady heartbeat of a house that had just escaped from the fire. As the afternoon sunlight faded behind the mountain, hurried footsteps echoed from the small slope in front of the house. Mom, Heng, and Sinnhat were busy attaching bamboo strips to the floor frame when a familiar voice rang out. "Mom, I'm home." All three of them turned around in surprise. It was Long. He stood there covered in dust, a smile lighting up his face. No one could say a word. Mom froze for a few seconds, then burst into tears, running to hug her son. Heng shouted happily, while Sinnhat stood up, forgetting his wound, his eyes brimming with tears. After a moment of astonishment, Heng stood silently looking at her son. The boy had grown older, tanned, and a little thinner, but his smile was still as innocent as ever. Heng's eyes were fixed on Long, not leaving him for half a second, as if she wanted to memorize every feature on his face. He said nothing, just looked at his son for a long time, his eyes filled with choking longing. Long smiled and threw himself into his father's arms, his small arms hugging Heng tightly. He leaned his head on his father's shoulder, eyes closed, peaceful, as if this was where he belonged. Sinnhat smiled quietly. That moment of reunion was so warm that it made the windless afternoon even gentler. After the longing was expressed sincerely, the atmosphere in the house became lighter and warmer than ever. Heng, Sinnhat, and Long sat together for a while, then quickly returned to their unfinished work. Heng carefully measured. Then, together with her mother, she began to erect the corrugated iron sheets onto the existing wooden frame. The hammering sound was steady, each small nail was firmly hammered. The dark corrugated iron reflected the afternoon sunlight. Although the work was hard, everyone worked with perseverance and hope. The kitchen roof would soon be covered. No longer afraid of wild animals or storms, Long occasionally ran around, carrying things to help his mother, making the atmosphere more bustling and warm. The small kitchen was gradually completed, becoming a symbol of the family's solidarity and steadfast belief in a bright future. Finally, everything was done. They gathered together, their eyes shining with happiness, their hearts filled with love and hope. In that moment, even though the hardships had passed, family love was still the invaluable strength for them to continue walking firmly on the road ahead.